the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, in and out of the White House for 6 years. Tell me what the vermin at CNN and MSNBC would be saying. Al Sharpton is the equivalent of the Ku Klux Klan on the other side.
One man's opinion. One man's opinion. And that's what I did yesterday. The time now is 46 minutes after the hour. Let's take a call. Rachel, a woman is calling, one of the 25 Savagettes who listen to the show across America. Rachel on WMAL, welcome to the Savage Nation. What's on your mind?
A little while ago, you were talking about the evilness in people, and I wanted to make a parallel observation between literature and today's society. William Golding wrote a book, Lord of the Flies, which most everybody reads in high school, and he uses it as a moral analogy about good and evil, and the theme being people are innately evil. If given the chance, they will be evil and commit horrible acts of crime. And I want to know what you thought about that, because...
Yeah, no, okay, so Lord of the Flies was a metaphor where a plane crashes or a boat, all the adults are killed, and the only survivors are boys on this island. So they try to create their own island, and they become debased and horrible to each other. They burn, I think, Fatty or Squeaky, don't they burn them alive in that movie?
Right.
And the story is telling us that children are inherently animals, and unless they have adults to guide them, they will revert to being animals. Isn't that more or less what you see the story is telling?
He used the children as an analogy to every, even adults in society, saying that...
Right. So in other words, a society needs guidance. Where has the guidance traditionally come from? As hypocritical as religion may be, they set up the rules, right from wrong, green light, red light, yellow light. And so when religion was destroyed slowly but surely, brick by brick, by the radical gay movement to start with against the Catholic Church, they took the Catholic Church down first because the Catholic Church was the bulwark of Christianity in the sense of being moralistic, bombastic, and very severe. They took the church apart brick by brick, and then they went after the other churches. And now look at where we are today. So the church is gone, the schools are gone. Who are the role models for the children? Katzenberg, Matzenberg, and Ratzenberg and their characters in Hollywood. And so look what the children are doing. Yeah. Take a look at what children are doing today. Pornography at age 9, showing each other's private parts on Instagram. Do you know what's going on with the children today on the internet, what they're doing?
Yeah,
hello? Rachel, so wouldn't you agree with me that children fundamentally have no knowledge of what the world should be like unless they are taught this by parents or by the church?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a teacher, so I see it every day. They're extremely influenced.
Right. Please stay on the line. Yes, the children are inherently lost without guidance. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Hey, our Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust for wealth insurance, gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN. You want to talk about cartoons? What would the cartoon be of Barack Obama? How about a cartoon contest of the real Barack Obama? It would be a two-panel cartoon. One would be the smiling, smooth president. The next panel would be the real Barack Obama and what he's really saying, shorn of the smooth delivery. How's that for a cartoon contest? Like that one? Well, anyway, you get the picture. I can see right through him. It's like the king has no clothes. The king has no heart and soul as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the hard data on Obama is pretty ugly. Instead of talking about the Muslims who try to execute people exercising First Amendment rights in Texas, he goes out there and he gives speeches again about the downtrodden minorities in the ghettos, and they had a right to burn the communities down. You hear this? Now, what president would do this in a Western nation? There's not a president of a Western nation that would do this after a city was torched. Go out and appease the minority group and tell them they had a right to torch the city. Literally inviting them to do it again? Beyond belief. It's unbelievable to me. And there's another subtext to this that I'll tell you about. How about black immigrants, like African immigrants who come here and do very well in this country? Can anyone explain that to me? Have you ever studied that element of the African community in America? Why is it that Africans who come here from Africa don't seem to get trapped up in the ghetto mentality. How is that possible? Why is that so? Because they've not been brainwashed by the white liberals and the media in the schools to believe themselves to be incapable of advancing in the greatest country on earth.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
But I would also raise questions about the larger context in the United States and whether or not we are applying a double standard to what is considered hate speech when it comes to Muslims. I feel that sometimes Muslims in America have become the last group in which public officials, organizations, and others are allowed to publicly demean, ridicule this group in ways that we don't do it with other groups per se.
Well, what he's calling for is hate speech laws against criticizing Islam. It wasn't in there. And he's a spokesmouth, of course, for the anti-American MSNBC. The home of all the refuse of the media is MSNBC. The last resort for all racists and bigots is on MSNBC, as exemplified by the leader of the pack, none other than Al Sharpton, a man who, in my estimation, should have been in prison 20 years ago for what he has done. Instead, is rewarded with 50 visits to the White House because fundamentally the president and he are one and the same with let us say, different delivery systems. So now we have MSNBC with a Muslim spokesmouth on it saying that, well, you know, the religion is picked on, and so Islam should be protected from satire. Yeah, but he's a journalist, and he's fair-minded, but it should be protected. The other religions don't need protection. Well, how about the Brooklyn Museum doing Piss Christ in the 90s? Mr. Muslim commentator on MSNBC. You may have been a wee lad at that point in a madrasa somewhere in Brooklyn or at Harvard, for all I know, in a nursery school. But you see, there was an evil anti-Christian at the Brooklyn Museum who thought it was fine for an exhibit called Piss Christ, where a crucifix was immersed in a jar of urine. Catholics were appalled, but being Catholics in America, they didn't get AK-47s and body armor. They didn't burn down the museum or attack it. They protested in the way we do it in America, something you don't know from your home countries. You just kill anybody who you don't agree with. That's not how it's done in America. And there's only one congressman who's speaking out, and that's Peter King, who I have mixed feelings about. You know, on one hand, he says the right thing. The next day, he attacks the Tea Party. Listen to clip 14.
I do believe in having more surveillance of people in the Muslim community because that's where the threat comes from. But Bingo. It's difficult to do, and certainly if it's done too often, the courts can claim that this is unconstitutional interference.
Yeah, it's the Trojan horse, in other words. They're using the Trojan horse of religion to penetrate America and destroy us from within. Any sane nation could see that. But we don't have a sane nation. We have an insane nation with cowards leading the country. So that's the story. It's that simple. What else is in the news? There's a lot in the news. My God, there's so much in the news. But I don't know that I want to do it, nor do I want you to know I don't think you want me to do it. So ISIS says that they had their first attack in America. The Garland mayor says that it has nothing to do with ISIS, even though they said they did. Listen to clip 15 on the Savage Nation.
Well, I think it would be very easy for them to take claim and still have nothing to do with it. I have no way of knowing. Certainly, I don't know of any evidence that links them to actually having had a part in this.
He may be right. They're just saying, oh, we did it, to show that they're all powerful, you know. He's probably right. But here's the odd part about the Muslim shooting in Texas. We read that the Texas shooter, the Muslim, had been monitored by the FBI since 2006. Wow, let's see, that's 9 years? What do you mean monitored? So he was working for them? Why in these 9 years, if Elton Simpson, the Muslim convert, the African-American Muslim convert Elton Simpson, was being monitored by the FBI, how did Mr. Simpson and Sufi get AK-47s and body armor? And how come the great FBI didn't notice that? What did they think they're buying it for? Well, what were they buying rifles and body armor for? What, an FBI? That's one way to look at it, that they're incompetent, but I don't think they're incompetent, by the way. Oh, crossing the old divide as I did on the Boston Marathon bombing, when we with our own eyes saw men in black walking around with knapsacks and antennae before the bombing in Boston, and yet they said it was all Sarnoff, who also had been monitored for many years. So they were monitoring Sarnoff. There were men with black knapsacks and antennae walking around before the Boston Marathon bombing, and they had nothing to do with the bombing, and they knew nothing about Sarnoff before the bombing, and now they don't know anything about Elton Simpson before the bombing. Only after the bombing they tell us they were monitoring him. See, this is what leads to conspiracy theories, that the establishment has created such a police state, such a monstrous police state. DHS, I don't know the agencies anymore. Millions of men and women with guns with nothing to do. So every once in a while they have to set a fire. That's what some people are saying. You know, there were old stories of firemen who would set fires because they had nothing to do. Fat pensions, laying in firehouses, eating bacon and eggs and having heart attacks. That was 30 years ago. Then they went to granola and vegan diets, and they live forever on their pensions now, taking a second job. How many fire departments do you really need? Well, what's with the fat pensions with firemen all of a sudden? Why is it the most coveted position in San Francisco for a lesbian woman to become a firewoman? Why is that? What, because they really want to put out fires all their lives while they were putting on men outfits? They wanted to really be firemen? Do you really think that? Fat pensions, $500,000 a year. You hear this? And during the last blaze in San Francisco, the leader, Mary Jo, I forget her name, she was in the back, her suit. Her white uniform didn't have a piece of soot on it after the fire. She was at a command post with her girlfriends 2 blocks away, commanding the fire. Why don't we have some volunteer fire departments and cut back on the pensions? Buy them out, and that's the end of it. Close down half the firehouses. How'd this turn into such a boondoggle? You talk about civil service jobs, my God. Now, I don't think I'm attacking firemen. A lot of them like the show, but look, let's be clear. You know there are not enough fires to justify all of the fire houses and the fire trucks. So in the past, once in a while, one of your brethren would set a fire. So the next time, we got to have, because of that fire over on Laterne Road, we had a fire on Latrine Road just the other day where I suggest we add 3 more men to the firehouse and up their pensions because we can't compete with the private sector. So some are saying that the police agencies, the federal police agencies, are doing the same, starting fires in the form of little terrorist attacks like this. I don't know what to believe. Truthfully, how would I know? You know, you could believe anything. You can believe, oh, yes, they're doing it. Oh, no, they're not doing it. No, they wouldn't do it because they're above that. If they're above that? Yeah. Yeah, well, let me explain something to you. There's a famous saying from an old movie. He has larceny in his heart. You ever hear that one? He has larceny in his heart. That would be Obama. That would be Bill Clinton. They have larceny in their heart. Every last one of those louts at the top. That goes for McConnell. That goes for the Republicrats just as well. Don't think I'm telling you there's happiness is just around the corner if you elect a Republican. Please. Please don't tell me that, for God's sakes. So here we are. What do you want to talk about on the Savage Nation? Lots of stuff to talk about. Let's go to WABC. I've been taking a caller out of New York. Mark on WABC in New York City. Welcome. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak about what you mentioned earlier with President Obama speaking about how black people, white Americans, have different opportunities and stuff. And I wanted to mention, I've been going to school in the New York City public school system and a graduate school, undergraduate school, and every single one of the top classes in the programs always had some kind of black immigrant, either from Africa, Haiti, Ghana, name the country. There's always achievers, overachievers. They're highly motivated. So I don't think it has to do with the race per se. I think maybe he is like starting some kind of tension that doesn't need to be started. Maybe
it has to do with the culture that they come from, not the racial stock, the culture.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
That's what we're saying, Mark. That's all we're saying here. I know that.
Yeah.
Mark, what are you studying in graduate school, Mark?
In pharmacy school.
Oh, good for you.